getting
Woohoo! Welcome, everybody. Welcome to YMA Matt Chat, Why Hardship Matters. And this is number 65. Episode number 65, starting off January 7th, 2026. Welcome. And thank you, Mr. Yarwood, for having this show. And really, for me, it's just an honor and a pleasure to continue to expand on the conversation that is bringing relevancy of martial arts outside of the studio and demonstrating where it really can make an impact in families, in school, in work, personal life, on and off the floor. So thank you for being with us tonight. And we're going to be talking about core sprinkles. I'm thinking about ice cream there, man. Woof. Core principles, what friction teaches, and the cost of removing discomfort, and the bottom line.
I was thinking, we said number 65. When we first started, I didn't think we'd get this far and still have stuff to talk about. But we seem to come up with stuff.
With Chat GPT, there is a plethora of the universe available.
Yeah, I mean, this one for me, this is my way of living, right? Hardship stuff. Suffering, honest, and not suffering in the meaning, the negative suffering where people are needing food and homes and all that stuff. I'm talking about putting yourself through things that make it so it's a challenge, make it something that you put yourself out a little bit. You have to do things that you don't necessarily want to do that might suck, but on the other end of it you learn from them, right? You're putting yourself through things. Like we're actually going to be doing, I've done it several times, but we're going to be doing the Tough Mudder this summer. And if you don't know what the Tough Mudder is, it used to be 13 miles. Now it's down to 10, which I'm a little disappointed in, but it's 10 miles of running. And then they have obstacles, mud obstacles, climbing obstacles, all kinds of different things that you do it's a challenge. And you go as a team and do all these things together, right? But you suffer through this stuff. There's things like you get not necessarily electrocuted, but zapped. I mean, there's just so many different things that you do that suck, right? That you go through this thing as a team, and on the other end, you're like your camaraderie is strong. You're excited, and you look back and you say, "Hey, we did this, right? We put ourselves through this thing to see if we could do it, to see if we could push ourselves beyond what we think we can do." And it's funny. Our team name is actually called Embrace the Suck. So it's just one of those things like you challenge yourself through something that you're not going to like, you're not going to enjoy, possibly, right? There's going to be things that you're like, you just don't want to do them, but you push through them anyway, and you come out on the other side way better than when you started, right? Your mindset has changed about things. You're just all kinds of things are different. And then you start to go forward and look at other things and like, well, okay, I did that, so this can't be that bad, right? Or you go and find other things that make that make life hard for you, so you get better at dealing with those things that suck, right? And obviously not everything, you don't have to have everything in life suck all the time to make life better, but when you put yourself through things, it makes a lot of things a lot easier, right? And I think our society nowadays is
wants to put a bubble around you.
Yeah, there's so many. We got to protect this. We got to protect that. I mean, I get, we want kids and people to be safe, but at what cost, right? What is the outcome of constantly protecting and supporting and doing all these things and never allowing kids to flourish and learn from things that suck, right? When I was a kid, man, we lived outside. We lived in the, didn't matter, rain, snow, didn't matter. We were outside. We're riding our bikes. We're doing stuff, right? We get cold. We get hot. We get sweaty, stinky. We get hurt, right? We come and see our parents, and our parents would just go, "Oh, here's some lunch. Go back out and play," right?
Here, let me kiss
Like,
it.
oh my gosh, what happened?
Let me kiss it and make it better, and it's all gone.
Yeah. My mom was a nurse, right? And about every 6 months, I was at the ER because I was doing dumb stuff, right? And we got to the point where they knew me at the ER. But my mom was like, she wasn't one to coddle me, right? If there was something serious enough, obviously she would take me in, but it wasn't like, I come in with a scraped up elbow. She go, "Hey, what happened?" I say, "Oh, I fell on my bike." "Oh, okay. Here, put some of this on it. It'll be all right." That was it, right? There was no, "Oh my gosh, we got," none of that stuff, right? And it made me stronger and made me able to deal with things without getting all freaked out about things or worrying about things. I mean, it's just a certain level that, like, life happens, right? And when you coddle and when you protect and when you hover and helicopter around and don't allow them to do this, don't allow them to do that, they grow up in this inside this room that they never experience anything, any hardship, any adversity, anything like that. And when they get out in the real world is cruel, right? And if you're not capable of handling those things because you've never been through those things, it's gonna be a hard lesson to learn real fast.
I agree, and I was, did some research on this, and I think you'll enjoy what I'm about to read. The true meaning of suffering is multifaceted. It's the profound psychophysical and existential distress from pain, loss, or hardship, but often seen as more than just pain, involving a spiritual crisis or an alienation of being, often arising from ignorance, attachment, or the impermanence of life. Meaning can be found through suffering by fostering compassion, spiritual growth, humility, and transformation. Though some philosophies see it as unavoidable yet potentially purposeful path to deep understanding or a catalyst for profound change. And as I look through, they've got core aspects of suffering, and then it has potential meanings and purposes for suffering, transformation, and growth. Suffering can force profound changes, leading to personal maturation, growing up,
Mm-hmm.
compassion to suffer with, and resilience. It can also be a spiritual awakening. It can reveal life's temporary nature, the humbling us and breaking illusions, leading to deeper spiritual insights. This next one for me is, and the next two, right? The catalyst for meaning. It provides a stark contrast to happiness, prompting us to create meaning through deeds, experiences, or work, especially when it's unavoidable.
Mm-hmm.
Humility and connection. It reminds us of our shared human condition, mortality, and the need for interconnectedness as seen in the root of compassion. And as I read that, I'm like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
like this is it. This is the way that to really get connected to, do you have grit? Do you have that space to be able to survive when it gets too hot, too cold, pressure's on, stressed? And
Yep.
in our society today, somebody gets anxious or stressed, we don't look to explain it and seek it and work through it. We medicate it.
Mm-hmm.
And we stick somebody on a pill to make them numb.
Yep.
And I look at that and go, how are they going to live in the real world?
Yep.
The real world, and I'm not saying that the real world is, I'm not saying that the real world is horrible. I'm just saying that there are things that are tough. You're gonna end up bumping into something. It is just the way life works.
Yep.
It is
Yep.
never a straight line. It's never an easy line. There is always something that tests your mettle.
Yep.
METTLE, right? Not
Yeah.
METAL. And I think that so many times people are like, oh well, you shouldn't have to suffer. It's like, what? What do you mean you shouldn't have to? How else are you going to expand who you are?
Yep.
How else are you going to be able to feel pain, actual pain, and realize that there's some pain you can live through and you
Yep.
can manage it and it's not going to kill you? And I'm not suggesting, hey, let's go lift weights, feel pain, and then push through it and rip your muscles. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that when the discomfort of that pain comes in, that being able to just be with it and move through it. And it's a fine line. I get that it is a very fine line and you have to be careful. I mean, people like me, and I'll make myself an example. There are times when I wouldn't work out for a long period of time. And then I come running back, jump into the gym and go gung ho. And by the end of the first week, I can barely move,
Yep.
and to suffer through the second week. And then all of a sudden, it comes back. And my chiropractor gives me a hard time. He says, Les, I've never met somebody that can rubber band so well, is how he puts it. He goes, you don't work out for a year. You come back and you go work out for 4 weeks. And it's like you never left. Like your body is that resilient. I said, yeah, it's because I've probably quit and started so many times.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a I don't know if it's a joke, but it's a thing at our school that if you guys don't do what you're supposed to do, we're gonna have some Mr. Yarwood fun, and they all know what that means, right? It's gonna be fun for me, just not fun for them, because I'm gonna say you guys can come work out with me if you want. I'll put you through what I do, and then you won't be complaining about what you're doing, right? We have a black belt testing coming up in a couple weeks, and one of the things that is required of the black belts is a 3-hour 6 a.m. workout, right? So they come in to the gym, the dojo at 6 a.m. and we work out for 3 hours, right? It's mandatory. It's required. And unless you're dead or literally can't come, you're required to be there, right? And we all bust our butts for 3 hours. But guess what happens when they're done? They're like, man, that was awesome. That was fun. It might have sucked. They're sweating. They're out of water. They need a shower, the whole thing, right? They're sore. They're tired, but they got through it. And then they could say, I made a black belt workout, right? And then later on that day, we get done at 9, and at 1 o'clock, it's testing time. You think testing is going to be hard or easy? Comparatively speaking, it's going to be a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
We worked all the crap out of them. We did all the stuff. Now they get to the testing, and that's just icing on the cake, right? But we went through this whole thing together, and we worked hard, and we pushed ourselves beyond what we thought what we could do. But then that mindset's like, oh my gosh, I can do this. It's not that hard. It's not that bad, right? So it's this that your mindset changes. I think you become more capable of more suffering, harder stuff, because you've already been through this. You think of like Navy SEAL training. They go to what's called BUDS, right? And it's they call it 2 weeks and 1 long day. Well, the 2 weeks is like leading up to Hell Week. Hell Week is 1 long day, and it's 5, 6, 7 days sometimes where they don't get any sleep. They're nothing, right? They're beat down and whatnot. And it's incredibly hard, right? But what happens to those guys when they get done and they're through with it? Do you think they ever forget that? Do you ever think they'll forget the guys that they did it with? They all suffered together and got through the other side. And guess what comes at the other end? They get to become Navy SEALs, right? it was worth all of that crap that they went through to get to the other side and do what they want to do. Guess how much easier things going forward are going to be for them after going through something like that, right? Throw it at me. What do you got? You can't do much worse than we already did. And it's a mindset shift on how much you can actually put up with and still not worry about it, right? And another thing that happens is how you look at things, right? You look at things that are going to suck. You can go negative, like, oh man, I don't want to do this, blah, blah, blah. Or the other one is, hey, I get to do this to challenge myself. And when you have that positive mindset going into something, it sucks less. It still sucks, but it's if you have fun doing it, it makes it way better, way easier, way more memorable than if you go into it like, oh my God, I'm going to get killed. This is going to suck. I don't want to do it. You get a negative mindset from it, and it changes how you look at things going forward. So it's such a huge, and I guess I get an endorphin rush from it. I love doing hard stuff, right? It's in my nature. And to me, it's just something that I don't know. I guess I enjoy it. Maybe I got something wrong with me up here. I don't know, but it's just for me. It's like the bigger the challenge, the more I want to do it because okay, let's see if I can do it. It's not guaranteed I'm gonna be able to complete it, but I want to go do it. Right? See, I'll push myself. How hard? How much further can I go this time than I went last time?
Yeah, I think, for me, when I look at it, um, there's dealing with fear, right? And fear has, a couple of acronyms. And one of them is what I call the negative acronym is false evidence appearing real. And it's the fear that, am I going to be good enough to get through this? Am I going to be able to get through it? Am I going to be able to physically and strength wise get through this? And when you look at Shaolin monks and they start when they're 3 and 4 years old practicing, and they practice 8 hours or more a day, and you think about that level of training, that intensity of training through pain, through heat, through cold, through tiredness, through hunger, through every physical challenge, you develop a brain that is this going to kill me? No. So therefore, whatever's coming at me, I can be responsible for it, manage it, and set it aside.
Yep. I've seen a T-shirt that says, "But did you die?"
And the interesting thing is, I've read a ton about the SEALs and listened to a ton of stories, and one of the things that I hear is one of the natures of doing it as a team is no man or woman left, nobody left behind.
Yep.
Man or woman, nobody left behind. Why? Because if you have that concept, if you have that agreement and understanding, what becomes possible is miraculous.
Yep.
When people see somebody falter or trip, carrying the boat during buds and during that time, and then one sees that and then takes up the extra load to compensate while they get their feet back underneath them. And if you'd have asked the person 2 minutes ago, can you handle another 20% of the load? They would go, are you kidding? I'm at max.
Yep.
But they don't know what max is. Right? We hear stories of mothers whose kids are trapped underneath a piece of wreckage of a car, and they're able to lift the car off their child. because what's more important is the child living. They don't think about, well, physically, my body the bones will break if I lift a 1-ton car.
Yeah.
There's just something that gets connected to. I went through a Tony Robbins seminar and walked across fire. 12 feet of white hot coals. They threw a piece of meat on it and it sizzled to the point where it finally lit up in flames. It was hot. And we walked across it. And I couldn't believe it. After walking across it, I still didn't believe it. I went back and got in line again and did it a second time. And I think until you do something like that, I jumped out of airplanes, walked up to the door in a perfectly good airplane, looked down and jumped out.
You went, whoa, and see you later.
Now, by the time I got there, I had trained enough to walk up to a doorway and jump out without thinking about it. Right? Because we had 3 weeks of prior training where for 8 hours a day we trained, jumped off of a stoop down to the ground and landed over and over and over and over and over and over. I think we did each of them at least 100 times. And then you swap sides. Wow, but I'm right-handed. I want to do it. Nope, you got to do both. And then you get that one practice. And if you don't do it right, you end up getting bruised. So the next day you're all bruised on one side and you still got to do it. But then comes the big day and you jump out and you instinctually do the things that you were told to do.
Yeah.
And in that moment, something becomes possible for who you are in this world at that moment.
Yeah. Another thing I was thinking about is like, sometimes there isn't a reward for what you're doing, right? Sometimes you're not going to get something for doing something that sucks. At least though you don't think you're going to, right? You're going to get a reward, but not something that you realize you were going to get, right? You're going to find something within you that you didn't know was there, right? And being able to put yourself through things, maybe at first the incentive is you get something for doing something, right? But at some point you realize it's not about what you get from doing it. It's about doing it, right? You hear the life's a journey, not a destination. Well, you keep putting yourself through stuff, pretty much going forward, nothing's hard anymore. There's nothing you're going to face is going to be hard because you're always doing hard things, right? You put yourself through those things so that when real life comes to you and tries to kick you in the face, you can put up with it. You can deal with it. It still might get you, but you can deal with it versus quitting or not being able to finish or whatever it is. It just builds that resilience in you that you're like, all right, what do you got? Bring it. Let's go. I'm ready. Right. And it doesn't matter at some point what it is anymore because you know you can handle it. You might not know what you're going to do. You might not have a plan for what it is you're going to do or how you're going to handle it, but you know you can. You know you're going to find a way because you've done it before, right? You've trained your brain and to say, hey, all right, let's go. What do we got? And, and go back to SEAL training. Everybody there physically can do everything there. Everything that they have to do physically, every single one of those guys can do, right? But not everybody has it up here. Not everybody can put up with all the stuff that they get thrown at over and over and over and after and after and after. They don't have the mental capacity to be able to handle it, right? And that's where that suffering comes in. If you were a kid, you grew up in Minnesota like I did, and you're outside no matter what the temperature was, no matter what the weather was, and then there's a little light rain. Oh yeah, so who cares, right? You're so used to it that it doesn't matter. You've been conditioned, right? So suffering to one person is like nothing to somebody else. But when you're dealing with it constantly, and you go find things that create that, you're going to get that much stronger mentally and be able to deal with so many more things.
And that's what I love about the last part here, the bottom line. Suffering does not block success. It often creates it. Children do not need life to be easier.
Nope.
They need to know they can survive when it isn't.
Yep.
And for me, it's even one step further than that. They need to know that life is going to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
And how they approach it is the degree to which they are going to transform.
Yep.
Based on that.
Yep. Yeah, we do that, with our training, right? Right. I have what I call compassionate discipline. I have, my kids, they know what to expect. This is how I am, and that's just how it's going to be, right? And sometimes class is going to suck. Sometimes it's not going to be fun. Sometimes, we're going to do repetitive things, or you're going to do a lot of burpees or whatever it is, right? I'm trying to teach them to know that you can do all this hard work, and then on the other end, you're going to feel so much better. You're going to learn how to control yourself. You're going to learn how to have discipline. You're going to learn how to have perseverance, grit, all those things, right? Sure, it's on a minor little scale, but when you're starting to understand that, when you're starting to know that when I push you, I'm pushing you to make you better. I'm not pushing you to punish you or be mad at you or upset with you. I want you to be stronger, better, faster, right? Physically, mentally, emotionally. And for little kids, right, some of the stuff we do is hard. They don't know. They've never had somebody push them like that, right? So you get those kids that you can just see they want to quit, and I won't let them. I said, no, you're not done yet. You keep going. You got it in you. I know you do. I've seen it. Let's do it, right? And you encourage that part of it, and they get to the other end and like, yes, I can do it, right? And when you get that moment from them where they're smiling at the end, they got something hard done. They're like, oh, wow. And guess what they want to do? More. They want to do more. Mr. Yarwood, that was awesome. Let's do more, right? They start to build that confidence in themselves that they can do hard things. And that translates into school. It translates into other sports they might play, family life, whatever it is they're doing, right? It translates to all that stuff. And when they realize that they can do hard things, they look for hard things to do.
And the piece where I'm going to put the whipped cream and cherry on top of the conversation that you're having is not only that they see the difference, what you're saying to them and how you're elevating them makes for them. And they go and repeat it to a friend or to a neighbor or to somebody. And then they really get it, because now they are being it.
Yep.
They're not just doing it, they're being that.
Yep.
They sometimes there's different thoughts about this out there. One of the things that I will definitely say is that when you get good at something, to then teach it takes you to the next level. And that's where showing it to somebody, giving what you learned to another person in that struggle, that they see that, and they're stuck in the struggle, you recognize it and you go and support them to break through. That's when you realize this is what it's about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so true with so many things, where you turn it around and what you learned, you teach. And when you start teaching, you actually learn more that you didn't realize about the thing that you're teaching, right? You learn it from somebody else and you're like, oh, okay. But when you teach it, you realize you don't know nearly as much as you thought you did. And you actually get more out of it, right? You get more understanding of what suffering can do for you, what positive effects it can have on you. When you start to see other people, you go, hey, they're seeing, they're maybe they're working out with their friends and say, hey, this is the workout we were doing. It was really hard. I want you guys to try it, right? And they start to see their friends struggle and they go, oh, then they start to see avenues that they can help their friends. And then they realize there's things that they can do for themselves too, because now they're like, oh, I didn't realize that when I was doing it. Now I see it and it's different. So they're expanding their knowledge, they're expanding their ideas, they're expanding opportunities for themselves when they start to pass it on to other people.
It's really cool. So thank you, Mr. Yarwood. Thanks for spending time doing this, creating this space for tonight's conversation, why hardship matters. And we'll look forward to next week for number 66.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. And thank you all. For those of you, I threw some notes in the chats in Facebook and YouTube. Some others I'm not able to add the notes to, but if you go to Facebook and you go to YouTube, you should see some of the notes from today. And really do appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for those of you that came in and listened. Thanks to Bev Miller, who gave us a thumbs up at the beginning of the conversation. And we'll look forward to catching you next time.